Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got another great one for you today. Today we actually connect with Wesley Verhamme out of Alaska and Kansas. He's actually a listener that reached out and said, man, I got some crazy stories and I'd love to tell them on your podcast. And so I want to thank Wesley, of course, for having the bravery to just reach out and then, of course, spend some time with me on the podcast. To you listeners, it's a great episode. I hope you guys really enjoy it. I will say that we had a little bit of technical difficulties. Turns out if a computer falls asleep while recording, we can still talk to each other, but it doesn't record the audio. So I did lose a little bit of this episode. I cleaned it up, and I apologize for that. We do lose the end of a goat story and a funny bear story. But the good news is we'll have Wesley back on again to tell both of those stories again and plenty more that he has for us. So thanks again, Wesley. Thank you guys for tuning in. Now let's go ahead and kick this thing off and let Wesley tell you some of his stories. All right, Wesley. Welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Pleasure to be on here.
Dude, I'm so happy to have you. I know it's our third time here trying to get this thing started because we're having some internet issues, but I've said it to you before, but you fall into the category of my favorite type of guest, which is a listener who goes, man, I've got a story I want to tell you. So thank you very much, Wes, for reaching out to me and asking to be on the podcast, because that's really what I want from this whole thing, is to just hear stories from people around the world. So thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. I encourage more people to do it. Love hearing these. Absolutely,
man. So let's kick this thing off how we always do. Why don't you introduce yourself to the folks that are going to be hearing your stories today, so they know who they're hearing some stuff from today.
You got it. So I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada. When I was about 4 years old, my family said, you know what? We hate the city, so we're gone. Right. And we moved to Haines, Alaska, small southeast Alaska town. My grandma had some property up there, had a big dream. None of it worked out, but we stayed there. Yeah. So I guess my real first hunting story, I just vague memory, didn't go on it or anything, but I was like 4 years old, and my dad left for like 3 days, and he just brings back sacks of meat, just in gallon Ziploc bags, and we had a bunch of neighbors come over and cooking and everything. So this is 4-year-old me. I'm just like, I have no idea what. I just know that I'm getting tacos right now from Big Walk. So that was like my first introduction. It's like, food. This is great.
God, I love that. I love that he just showed up with Ziploc bags full of meat. And was just like,
just in a
I
cooler.
Had success. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So yeah, that really like sparked it. I was like, I want to know where it goes from being a living animal eating corn off of some farmer's field to in our freezer. Yeah. And I really didn't get to see that until I was like 7 or 8 years old, when I went on my first like real hunt with my dad, which was a duck hunt. And it's Mosquito Lake. It's a Mosquito Lake, and gets awful. That name for a reason. It's just like, it's not even a lake. I mean, there's a deep section, but most of it's like 2-3 foot deep. Great duck hunting.
Okay.
So,
well, terrible. It's redeemable there. And in duck season, there's typically no mosquitoes, right? If it's cold enough.
Oh no! I mean, like our duck season starts August 15th. So I mean, that's just mosquito, just everywhere. I mean, they'll pick you up and take you away if you're not careful. So yeah. I remember being 7 years old, and I mean, like, I'm in some maybe garage sale waders, because we've only lived in Alaska for about 2 years now, 3 years. So just handy down stuff that we just picked up along the way. And I'm just trugging behind my dad, trying to keep up in like the marsh and just nasty mud. And my dad goes, all right, here you go. And it's just a single shot 410. And he's like, the main mission was just to get me away from him so he can go jump up some ducks. I don't know if I would ever do that with my kid, because we're in the middle of bear country there. But he's like, you just stay right here. Here's a gun. Don't move.
Yeah, so sometimes the best parenting lessons are what not to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. So me being a 7-year-old kid, I was like, I'm not going to stay here. I know where the ducks are. And I start crawling in the opposite direction. And little to me, like, there's like these bear trails and just like trails going through this muskeg, and it gets beaten down. And it's just like 6-8 inches of water on top of this like floating marsh kind of deal. And I was crawling in one of those, and I had a mallard jump up in front of me, and I just point and shot because I thought it was something scary. And it dropped, and I heard my dad yelling, and that just sparked this like lust for hunting.
Was it like a Yahoo yell, or was it like a holy shit, what was that yell?
Like, no, my dad said, don't shoot unless you see a bear. So it was more
shit.
of a like,
Okay.
I'm coming, like,
Yeah.
where are you? And it's not like my dad left me. I mean, he was going around a bend or around the little side just to jump shoot these ducks, and he didn't want a loud 7-year-old screaming, "They're right there!" So he just left me behind, and he
So he thought you
started
were dealing
running
with
back.
a bear.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
And-
oh shit, my
Yep.
mom's gonna kill me.
Yep, exactly. So my dad's like, what happened? And I was like, it was a duck. And he was like, no, it wasn't. And I was like, I'm telling you, I shot a duck. And he's like, no, you didn't. And sure enough, my dad comes up and we're following that slough, and hear splashing, and I winged this mallard. So this mallard is then now running away from us, and he finally puts the finishing shot in it. And I just remember holding that duck in my hand, being like, I'm hooked. I'm addicted now. Like,
Yep.
all my money in my adult life is gone, and I don't even know that yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
this is my personality now. Come on, Dad, buy me everything camo.
Yep, exactly. So that was like I was 7 years old, and I went on a couple hunts, but it's Alaska, so it's hard for just kids to go hunting.
Yeah.
And the next real like big hunt that I remember, I was in 5th grade, and we went to Hoona, Alaska. We jumped on the ferry, loaded up the truck, the camper, had this big, huge plan to go down and shoot some deer off of federal land. Because I don't know if you know, in Alaska, tags are free for residents.
I knew residents had a lot of tags every year if they chose to use them. Let me stop you real quick. I want to go back just a little. So you guys moved from Nebraska?
Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nevada to Alaska. I'm assuming your father did hunt before, and that's kind of why you guys chose Alaska, not just Grandma's land. Or did he hunt before?
Yes and no. He had guns. As a kid, that's how they ate most of the time, he said.
Okay.
He said that if they were hungry, they hunted, and they were kind of like, I mean, it sounded not legal. He never said that, but you do what you got to do.
Limitations. He's good now.
Yep. That was 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
But he just grew up kind of around it, and he had friends who did it, and it's hard to hunt in Vegas. You gotta drive a good section away and get to some farm land. And he was hunting off of like depredation tags. I think that's what they're called.
Okay.
Just shooting some does and whatnot. And the main reason we moved to Alaska is because my grandma had property out there. My dad was a carpenter, and he got a good job. I don't know if you know Parker Schnabel and the Gold Rush and everything.
That's a quality name, but I've never heard it before.
So Parker Schnabel, it's that Alaska Gold Rush TV show, and my dad actually worked for his father for a while for Alaska Southeast Road Builders.
Schnabel Senior. Okay.
Yep. So he had a good job up there, everything lined up, and we were able to make the move. So that's really why we ended up in Alaska, just tired of the city.
Got it.
Good opportunities there to just start something, and I'm sure my dad had the hunting in mind too, but that's never what he told me.
Man,
or my mom.
I can't imagine like being someone from Vegas and then like I'm just gonna go up to Alaska, like rural Alaska, because those are so different. But good on him, man.
I was young, so it was an easy transition for me. But my older sister and my older brothers, they hated it. But now most of them moved back because they love it. So
yeah, it's like 100-degree temperature swing for one.
Yeah, exactly.
Never mind the culture difference. Obviously, massive differences there. But
yeah,
okay,
definitely.
I took you out of your story there. I was just curious, kind of what spurred it. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So Hoona, Alaska, 5th grade. We had this great plan, great setup. We were like, we're just gonna go down there. My dad had this old F-350 V10 with that Trident in it. You touch the gas, there goes $30 in gas money. But we were like, we're going to load it all up. And one of my older friends, Cade Clay, great hunting buddy of mine, he had a 30-06. My dad didn't trust me still, so I had a 22 long rifle, and I was on squirrel and rabbit duty up until my Uncle Mike and I, he went on that trip as well, and he handed me a gun, and we were just going through the woods, and next thing I know, he just tells me to sit down, which I guess I had loud feet or something because that happened a lot as a kid. And he takes off and just starts going, and I hear a gunshot. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Another gunshot. And then that's 3 shots. I hear a pause, and then I hear 3 more gunshots, and I see Bambi just run out right in front of me. And I'm like, what? and I just see the snow is now just red behind it, and it finally drops.
Jeez.
And he, like, about 10 minutes later, I see him walking back. He's like, "Did you see the blood?" And I was like, "It's right here." I was like, "I don't know how you can't see this." Forgot he had red-green colorblind, first of all.
Oh.
So I don't know how he
I've heard
hunts
of a
too
lot
well.
of hunters that have that exact problem, and it blows my mind that they're out there. Like, if you don't get a shoot it, like, probably never do archery, right? You got to do rifles and just hope you drop it in its spot, because otherwise you're never finding these things.
Well, I mean, so he finally gets up to it, and this deer is still kicking a little bit. And I mean, like, it's double-shotted in the lungs. It's probably hit gut shot, high back, and I'm like, why is this 70-pound, not even 60-pound doe, like basically Bambi, still kicking? And my uncle goes, like, "Can I see your 22?" And I was like, "Let me do it." And I was like, my first time, like, realizing, all right, this is going to be start to finish. We're harvesting. This is like, I want to do this because I want to be involved. And that was my first time skinning a deer. And, like, all of my hunting has always revolved around meat. Like, I'm a big-time meat hunter. I love helping out, just harvesting. Like, my friends, like, "Oh, it's an open phone call. Call me. I need to track something. I'll help. I'll gut. I'll do anything." So that's, like, another big-time funny story, but it really set in my mind where it's like, this is what I'm here for. I'm not here for big racks. I'm here for meat and, like, doing it all myself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And like, living in
how old then? 7?
I was in fifth grade, so I was like 10, 11. I've always been a little bit younger for my grade. But so we went on a couple more kind of deer hunting trips like that. That trip in particular, you're allowed 4 resident tags for deer, and then if you hunt federal land, you get an additional 2. But these aren't like your white-tailed deers. I mean, these are dogs. They're like 50, 60 pounds. You might get lucky to shoot 120 big buck in some areas, 130. But these are basically like smaller Labrador retriever dogs, like the deer. They're not big at all. So we make out of there like a bunch of bandits.
What species? This is Alaska, so are you hunting mule deer?
Sitka blacktail.
Sitka. Okay. Yep. They are little. Yep. Okay, gotcha. That's
little guys, yeah. So my dad realizes, you know what? I grew up in a household of 7 kids and 3 adults. So my dad's like, these deer aren't really cutting it, and that's when we got our first taste into moose hunting.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was in 7th grade, and we were coming up on our first moose hunting trip. My dad got the tag. He put all of us kids that were old enough in it. None of us kids drew the tag. But he drew a tag, so me and him hunted hard. And on the last day of season, we decided to do this little thing, and he's like, you know what? Nothing's working. We're going after the big bulls normally. And he's like, we just need to get meat. So there's 3 different harvest restrictions, I guess, or antler restrictions on a moose in the unit we were in. It's a 50-inch spread. So it has to be 50 inches. And I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's pretty hard to say, "Mr. Moose, hold still. Let me put tape on you really quick before I shoot you."
Yeah, right?
It won't go over well. There's the 3 brow tine. You know what brow tines are, right? They're the
I do, yep.
Point under the mid-bay tines, for those who don't. Has to be 3x2 or a spike and a fork. So my dad was like, you know what? We're not going to get anything. And he said he read in a book a long time ago where these 2 hunters imitated a cow moose, just pissed off and mad, and was like, I don't want anything to do with this little bull. So what he told me to do was just to make just a little bull grunts as he walked down this gravel, like, old logging road, and I'd keep chirping back like a little bull, and he's just going to sound like a mad cow who wants something else.
Yeah.
And we kept doing that, and I see him go around the next bend, and then that was my cue to go forward again. And we go probably about a mile down this road where he goes 300 yards. I keep creeping up with just a little bull grunts, like saying, hey, I'm still interested. This cow's not interested at all. And it was kind of like a last-ditch effort. My dad didn't know if it was going to work. And we're sitting there, and I was like, Dad, do you not hear that? And he's like, what? And I'm like, I'm hearing grunting down here. And once again, I don't have the best reputation as a kid growing up. My dad was like, no, you don't. And I finally convinced him. I was like, let's just peek down this knoll, and it's just devil's club, blueberry bushes, just the nastiest thing ever. And my dad's like, no. And I'm like, let's do it. And it's all old logging timber, so there's stumps everywhere, and just the worst thing you ever want to walk through. And I was like, let's just do it. And we get down about 50 yards, and there's like kind of this little like bench, and my dad just starts glassing, and I just feel a fist right in my chest. And he's like, there it is. He's like right there. And now I've never seen my dad get the shakes on anything. I've seen him harvest nice black-tailed deer, everything. Never seen him get the shakes. And he's reaching into his pocket, trying to grab out his clip, and he's shaking. And I still don't even see the thing. Don't even see it. So my dad's like, he's asking me, range it. I'm like, I don't even know how to work this. You never taught me, first of all. So I'm like trying to figure this thing out. And he's like shoving it into my hands and like pressing buttons. And I'm like, okay. And I finally get it. And I'm like, I finally see it. And I'm like, I turn towards my dad, never cussed in front of him before this. And I just go, shit. And he's like, you see it now? And I was like, yeah. So I get a range on it, and I'm like, all right, that is, and I said, it's 425. And I was like, but don't you have to worry about the downhill? And he's like, no, that's fake. And I was like, okay.
Uh-oh.
And he goes, boom. And I just see it. I don't see the bullet, but I just see that whole area where that moose was just like kick and run, and like you just see it disappear in the alders. And I hear my dad rack another shell, and he's like, range. And I was like, I don't see it. And he goes, okay. And I hear boom, and just another shot. And then now we don't see it at all.
Uh-oh.
So we're like, okay. My dad's like, that felt good. You know, I felt really strong on that second shot. I believe he's down. And we're like, okay. And my dad's like, all right, now let's climb up and go down and get some people out here. Cause like, he was like, he told me he didn't even bother to check brow tines. It was that big. And I was like, okay, well, we'll go see. And we go down the road, get back up. Yeah, we're all okay. I'm starting to get a little cold because, you know, it's late August, early September. I'm getting cold now, and I'm a kid still, so my dad tells me to layer up. I put on an extra pair of socks.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody about this, but I just put on an extra pair of socks, and I think I'm good. And we're going down. We finally get to like the first house, and we knew them. They're family friends, and we called some other people, and we got like 6 guys out there to help us go down and pack up. My dad doesn't even know if there was blood or not. So me and my dad,
but he got the whole village just in case.
Yeah, about 6 guys. We go down there and see nothing, absolutely nothing. And we come back up, and now I'm like in the car trying to get warm, and my dad and everyone else is still trying to look for it. And I turn towards my mom at this point. She's up there with the car, and we're getting warm as close as we can. And I go, Mom, I'm extremely hot. Can you turn off the heat? And she's like, what do you mean you're hot? And I was like, I'm hot. Like, my fingers are burning. And she looks at my fingers, and they're in like half clenched fists, and my fingers are all blue.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm like, I'm so cold that the heat from the car was like burning my skin. Long story short, my dad called the whole village out there for no reason, missed it clean. But he's still convinced that he shot it.
Yeah, as soon as you said, he's like, that's fake when you're like, what, the downhill. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
This is not going to go where we want it to.
He's convinced he shot it. So he is going out there, and he's just out there. He's looking for dead meat. So he only has his bear pistol on the side, and he's like checking and like looking around. And he finally sees the moose, and on his left paddle, which would have been the paddle facing away from him and downhill, there's a figure 8 bullet holes right in that paddle.
No way.
Yep.
Both shots through the paddle?
Both shots through the paddle. And then about 3 or 4 months later, those old logging roads are common for snow machiners. Mm-hmm. The snow machiners were driving around, and old man Turner was up there with his boys, and they found that shed. And my dad, I don't know if my dad still has the picture. He's lost so many phones, but I'll have to see if I can't get it from him. But my dad there was a picture at one point in time, my dad holding that paddle with a figure 8 shot in it. I'm sure I can get it for you.
That's awesome. Do you think so? You said he's deterred to this day. He still thinks he shot that bull.
No. Nope. He saw next day, the next like couple days after season closed, the fishing game there is pretty lenient. They say if you go out there, don't bring a hunting rifle. If you find your moose dead, we'll still like honor it. Like we'll tag it. They'll work with you basically.
Yeah.
And my dad went out there with his pistol and saw that moose in the same general area with the 8 knocked in his antlers.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then so he missed, and he found out a valuable lesson that when you're shooting downhill at 400 yards and then a mystery range, it really matters where you aim.
God, that's funny, man. That's too funny. But that's a great story. That's a great story, and hopefully you didn't lose any fingers.
Nope. I recovered pretty well. But yeah, it was funny. That really taught me a lesson. I was just like, my dad isn't going to tell me. My dad tells me to layer up, I might want to put on like a windbreaker and some rain gear.
Yeah. More than 2 pairs of socks.
Yep. So
That's
then
funny.
that leads into the next year moose hunting, which I finally get a tag. You draw a tag, and I hunt hard all season. We're going on the river boat now, so we're going upriver, and I get nothing. And then the following year, now I'm in 8th grade, my dad gets another tag. He shoots a moose, and the brow tine on the right side, there was 2 brow tines. The third brow tine on that side wasn't considered a brow tine because it was a little bit wider than it was long.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they have to be longer than they are wide to be considered a point, or a brow tine, excuse me. And
Okay.
that moose didn't qualify, so it got taken away. My dad lost. He didn't lose his hunting permission for the full year. He had to pay like a $200 fine, and I got to still eat the moose because it got donated to the school. So my dad had free school lunches for a year. So my dad came in every once in a while and ate a couple of things of chili and whatnot. But
that's funny.
Yeah. So my dad
How
kind of
pissed was he when he saw that
Oh.
moose? And it,
Well, he thought that it was legal, and it's whichever fish and game warden's on at that time, they get to pick where it ends and where it starts. And like the 3 game wardens, 2 out of the 3 said it wasn't a point. The 1 guy said it was. So it was just like, it was tough.
yeah.
But yeah, so my dad was like, you know what? I'm done. We're done with this unit, and we're gonna go. We're gonna go stay
Yeah.
up with some family friends, and we're gonna go to a unit with no antler restrictions. And the first year he went up there, he went up by himself, left me. I was so mad. I was I was a freshman, just mad. And he takes off, gone.
What was he thinking? Just like he's going to be camping too tough for you, or why did he leave?
No. He was just like, this is my first time hunting the area. Like, I don't want to. I just want to go by myself and like hunt hard if I need to. That was my first year of wrestling. So
Okay.
so I started wrestling that year, and my sophomore year, he comes back with a moose. Tells me a bunch of stories. I don't know if they're true or not. I wasn't there. So
maybe there may be true.
Yeah, maybe. So then the next year, he's like, you know what? We can definitely like double up and get enough, like, because we try to eat wild game if we can, because everything's so expensive in Alaska. So my dad has this great idea of like, you know what? Let's go up there. Let's get 2, call it good. So now I'm a sophomore in high school, and I'm of the age where I can hunt by myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So me and my dad, his rule is always he gets first shot so we can get meat. So me and my dad did that whole little moose cow calling thing back and forth again, because that really started becoming a staple, and how me and him hunted, because it worked so well. When you get a pissed off horny cow moose mad at a little small bull, you're going to bring big bulls in. You're just going to bring bulls in, and they're going to be wanting to chase off little bulls, or even if it's a little bull, they're like, I have a chance, because she's obviously mad at whoever this bull is trying to breed her.
Yeah.
So we called in a nice fork and horn for my dad that year, and he shot it, and he stopped hunting. Didn't help me get mine, so I was on my own. And I was like,
I shoot first, and then good luck. Get
I was
out
like,
there.
sweet. He's like, you're old enough now. Push comes to shove, we'll buy a couple hogs and butcher them, and then take the 6-hour drive back home. Through Canada and whatnot. And I was like, all right, sweet. So I started going out by myself, and my first time ever hunting, I get turned around. I have my phone GPS, luckily, and I kind of get orientated to where I think I'm in a good spot. I'm far enough away from the road, so I'm not having to deal with all the people coming in from Fairbanks and Anchorage, because that's like the yahoos in terms, and when you're in rural towns, because they're weekend hunters. They come up, they just run around on ATVs and stuff and just try to road hunt, basically. Because
Gotcha.
I mean, I don't blame them. They got a weekend to hunt, so they can't put in the time. So they just try.
I'm in Colorado, so same thing, man. Then the
They
weekend,
just try to get lucky.
Yep.
So-
just hope something rolls by as you roll by.
Yeah, so I kind of get turned around, and I'm sitting here now, and I'm like, this looks like a good spot. So I put my phone away. I'm not even looking at maps anymore, and I let a cow call out. I rip it, and I learned just vocals, no horns, no reeds, no nothing like that.
Okay.
And I'm like, that sounded pretty good. I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And I've never heard a moose call back right away. And I mean, bam, instantly started hammering. Just nice little low grunts coming across on the backside of this field. It was kind of like a hot day, and these fields are like marshes, and then there's like these just small evergreens, maybe 4 inches in diameter, 6, 8, 10 foot tall, nothing really taller. And those moose like to be in those bogs on those hot days to cool down. So I'm like, this is perfect. I'm kind of calling in. And then all of a sudden I hear another cow call rip off, and I'm like, sweet. I got a live cow now. She's a cow moose. She's calling off back and forth. This is perfect. I'm right in the middle. I can just shut up and just start listening, and I can just wait to make my move. And now I'm just like, this is great. The cow's going off. I hear a couple more bulls just fight, and I hear raking, and I'm like, this is about to be really good.
Yeah.
And so I get my I get my glasses out, and I'm like seeing her, and I see and I scan to my left, and about 600 yards down this little muskeg, I see a hunter, and he's ripping that cow call. And I'm like, man, that is the best cow call ever. I'll just let him call in my moose for me, because there's still this bull, and there's another one raking brush. I'm like, this is great. This is great positioning. I'm gonna like make myself known to him if I need to, so he doesn't accidentally just see movement and shoot it. Yeah. I'm just kind of looking around like, this is awesome. And then I start glassing my way to the right where I'm hearing this bull coming, and I see a guy grunting. And I'm like, why is he grunting? Oh, he's probably trying to call in this bull that's raking over here. And I'm like, oh gosh, we're a bunch of idiots. We got 4 guys calling back and forth to each other. So I walk out into the field with I had a hunter safety orange in my backpack, and I just start waving around like, guys, we're idiots. And I turn to my right, and about 75 yards to my right, directly where behind me and to my right, I see just the big ass of a moose and antlers booking off.
Oh, no.
So, the guy I thought that was raking brush was a moose coming in behind me. And I was just like, damn it, I really hope those guys didn't see that.
Yeah, like, we're not idiots. We're actually really good. I'm an idiot, not we.
Yep. So that was like my first time solo moose hunting. And I went back and told my dad, and he's like, you weren't far enough away from the road, were you? And I was like, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's too funny. I have a similar story. I don't know if I've told it on the podcast or not, so I'll share it with you real quick. But it was 2 or 3 seasons ago, the season that I actually hurt myself. And it was like a day after I had fallen. So like I really hadn't locked up and like been completely injured and had to get out of the woods yet. Yeah. But we're in there, and we're a couple miles in, and we're like, oh, this seems like a good spot. This seems like something that if we started calling, something might come in. So we wait until, the end of the evening, right before the sun goes down, and we're calling, and we hear something pipe off. I'm like, ooh, okay, that's exciting. And then we hear another one pipe off. I'm like, oh, and this is all, it's kind of like, I want to say northwest and southwest. So we're like, that's kind of the trail where we came in on, but that's cool. So I'm still just doing cow calls. I'm like, I think I'm going to bring them in just doing cow calls.
And excuse me for interrupting, but this is elk, right?
This is elk. Yeah, sorry.
Elk,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, so I'm just doing my little cow calls, just trying to get something to come in, not really dealing too much with the bugles, but I'm hearing bugles all over the place. And then I hear another, and it's just like a dinosaur of a call, like this crazy noise I'd never heard before that I was like, upon hearing it, I was like, well, I don't know what that is. That's not an elk. That's probably some jackass hunter. Yeah. But we all start calling, and so then I start throwing in a couple. I'm like, these are hunters, so I'm gonna have some fun with them. So I'm gonna throw some bugles back at them. So now I'm bugling a little bit, and they're calling from the northwest, and then the north or the southwest, and then the northeast, and we're just calling, and just having a good time with it. And I know it's people. So like we get out of there, we kind of have a quicker way out than the rest of them because we can walk down this valley, and we get to the truck, where our truck is, and there's a couple other cars there, and we just sort of hang out, and people start to file out, and we're like, yep. And they're like, you guys hear those bulls? And I'm like, no, we heard you. And he's like, oh no, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then it's a group of guys, and they were broken up, and they were all calling, and they're like, oh, ain't that some shit? So I start to realize that the amount of guys that came out that said they were calling, we heard more bulls than that in more directions. So we started looking at the map. And it turns out the one that was kind of to the east, the other two were the west, were definitely guys. The one to the east, the dinosaur-sounding one that I was like, that's definitely not a bull, was absolutely a bull.
Just some old ruddy, nasty one.
Some old nasty
cry.
Bastard. Yeah, man. And so we went back the next morning, and I started calling, and he started piping off in the exact same spot. And so we'd kind of made a game plan, being like, okay, well, we see these kind of these saddles and these ridges. If he's up there, that's where he'll be. So we kind of swoop around and we start crawling up this hillside, and it's it's like 1,200 feet straight up. It sucks. We get up there, and then we start going side hill because we're like, we're going to get in on him. We know exactly where he's going to be resting. We got good wind. And within probably 400 yards of when we started going, side hill, it was the worst downfall I've ever seen in my life. Like, you were crawling up and over 6 to 7 feet of trees and then back down the other side. And we're like, we're going to die in here. Like, this is stupid. What are we doing? I was like, I don't care how old and big that bull is. Like, we're not getting to him. And if we did get anywhere close to him, he's going to hear us from a mile away. So we're like, all right, we're only 200 yards from that valley. So let's just drop down into that valley. That was stupid too, because the downfall was the entire way, and it was one of the hardest hikes I've ever done in my life. And then basically that evening, because I had fallen 2 days earlier, that nerve that I'd pinched just became inflamed, and I couldn't even sit down, man. I was out.
That's brutal.
I'm talking, it was probably 2 months before I felt like I could even take a crap without pain. God. And it was just nerve pain down my leg. And then 6 months before I felt like I could even work out. It was absolutely insane. But yeah, man, it was a similar experience where we're just calling with a bunch of guys, and then I realized later, oh God, there was one bull, and we probably called him into 100 yards maybe. That first evening, but I stopped calling for actual trying to get an elk. I started calling just to mess with the other guys. So, my bad, I guess.
Yep. I mean, that taught me a lesson. I was just like, you know what? Next time, I'm just gonna let it play out till I feel like I'm about to get shot. Then I'll go wave an orange flag and yell, "We're idiots."
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. I have a question for you though. I know we're not supposed to be doing any learning. We're just supposed to hear funny stories. But I drew a cow moose tag.
Yeah.
And you appear to have a fair amount of moose hunting experience. Is calling something that I need to be concerned about at all with a cow moose tag? Or
now, is it in the rut, or is it pre-rut, or?
I don't know when the rut is, so you'll have to tell me, but it's like mid-September in Colorado.
See, man, I hunted moose in Alaska. I do know pre-rut, the cows like to group up. And when they start getting interested, they'll start making just soft cow calls to each other to kind of know where they are. And then as soon as that rut hits, the only calling that's going to work is to bring in a bull.
Okay.
But I have observed them pre-rut. They kind of do soft little moans at each other to kind of know where they're at, and they kind of group up right before rut, and then they just disperse and try to find the biggest and baddest. They're not like elk. I mean, elk cows will just herd together, 6-7 of them to a bull during the middle of the rut. Yep. I've noticed pre-rut they kind of group up and they'll chirp back and forth to each other. But
okay, yeah, I was out there roughly the same time frame, maybe a little bit before the season started last year when I killed my bull elk, and we saw a bunch of solo ones. So if they're solo, you're telling me you're probably not going to have much luck calling, but that's all right.
I don't think so. I think the best bet would be to find where the bulls are, and if the bulls are in the area, there's going to be some cows in the area, and that's what they're after. They're after trying to find the biggest, baddest bull to get those genetics.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's funny. So we went out and we were looking for elk, but we saw cow moose every day and didn't see much for bull. But my buddy Jermaine that I was hunting with, he went back because he had a October tag, and he literally to the spot that we park and then hike like 2 miles in, the cow that we had kind of cased because she was in the same valley that I killed my bull. She was standing like in the field next to where we park with a bull, and so he just put her down.
Nice.
It was the easiest hunt ever. I mean, granted, he did days and days and days of scouting basically while hunting elk with me, but it was a very easy hunt for him. So I'm hoping the same.
You know what's funny about that now? Now that you got a tag in your pocket, you're not going to see a damn one.
I know.
You're going to see all the elk up there.
You got to stay positive, Wes. We got to stay positive. I don't need that bad juju, buddy.
I got a funny story about that, though, actually.
All right.
So my junior year, I considered that like the year of my best hunting up to this date. That year, I really committed myself to wrestling. I won a state title in Alaska that year for wrestling.
Hey, badass, man. Congratulations.
But what got me into shape was mountain goat hunting.
Oh, I bet.
And, oh, gosh. I mean, I'm talking waking up super early, running up the mountain before school starts, just trying to get up to where the goats are. And because I had my first 2 periods my junior year off, so I could come into school around like 10:30, 11. So I would I'm just booking it up 5 miles up a mountain, trying to get some elevation, just try to see where I'm going to hunt this weekend. And I was just shedding off pounds. And while I was up there, I'm like, man, I don't see any goats, but every time I'm up here, I see black bear. So I get my black bear tag, and never saw another black bear again that whole hunting season. And I must have went on 15, 20 goat hunts, and just every time I got up there, just nanny after nanny after nanny. And one of my friends was like, you know what, I would like to go. And I was like, okay, you know what, you've never been, so I'll do the nice thing. I'll let you shoot first, even though I hadn't gotten a goat that year.
Oh, jeez. Uh-oh.
We go up there, and I'm like, this is a spot I've been 100 times. I know every single goat in this bowl. Like,
yeah.
I know what's in here. I know there's no billies. I know they're all nannies and kids. And we get up here, and he's like, oh, there's a billy. And I was like, you son of a bitch. I was like, God damn it, Wesley. Why am I too nice sometimes?
Yeah, right?
So we're sitting here thinking, I was like, man, this is going to be an easy hunt now. I mean, like, we just broke tree line. There it is. It's one ravine over. We're set. I was like, we're 300 yards. He's shooting a 30-06, which terrible goat hunting gun in my opinion. So I was like, I wanted to get him within 150 yards. I had a 338 Win Mag, which I feel comfortable shooting up to 300 to 350. My dad says it shoots out to 500. He shot out to 500 before, had great luck on moose and bigger targets, but I like getting close if I can.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Me and my buddy Jackson were like, all right, this is going to work out great. We're going to come up. There's this little rock. We're going to dip down. We're going to come up again, and there's like these 3 small trees. We can post up here. That goat's bedded down. We'll sit and wait for him to stand up, and we'll be good. We'll be right in at 150, 120. Executed that plan perfectly. Got up to 120 yards, and my buddy Jackson gets comfortable. I was like, this could take 10 minutes. We could be here till dark. Because, I mean, when goats like the spot they're sitting in, they're only going to move if they sense something's wrong or they're hungry.
Yeah.
So that goat's bedded down, and we sit there and we bust out a deck of cards. We're 150 yards away, and we're just playing cards.
There you go.
And just kind of waiting. And we're like laying down on our side, like trying to like stay upright because we're on a pretty steep slant. But my theory was as long as Jackson could get a good first shot, that goat was just going to tip right into the drainage and go right down. And we'd meet him at tree line, gut him, pack him out in corridors, and take the hide. Quick and easy. Jackson wanted to do it the hard way. The goat finally stood up and just like stood up, took 2 steps, and started feeding. And I was like, perfect. Nice broadside shot. I range it. It was like 224 yards, something like that. And excuse me. He's right up there, and I was like, Jackson, just these goats are tough. I want you to put it right behind his shoulder. You're going to lose some meat because it was kind of quartering away a little bit on the backside, but goats are tough. They will not die unless you get a good stone shot on them. And Jackson shoots, and I was like, missed low, and I was like, I don't know how you're missing low at 120 yards. He racks another one, and I was like, I saw fur. You hit high. And he racks a third one and shoots, and I was like, all right, you hit him, but not well. And at this point, the goat, the first 2 shots is like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, there's no predator. He doesn't think anything's going on. He's just hearing loud noises bouncing off these rocks. And he's like, what the hell is going on? And that third shot clipped him low in his elbow. And I was like, Jackson, like, put another one in him. He's like, I only brought 3 bullets, Wesley.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, are you kidding me, dude? So luckily I brought my gun just in case we ran into a black bear. And I racked a shell, and I'm like, range. And Jackson's like, I don't know. And I was like, all right, well, he was at 120, and I kind of ranged a couple noticeable landmarks.
Yeah.
So I put a shell in at like 230, 250 is what I was guessing, and I missed low, and I rack another one, and I'm like, oh gosh, I do not want him to get up and over this next lull, because if he does, like, it's just gonna be miserable, and I don't even know if we're gonna be able to get this unless we go out, down, and around. And I was like, then that time it's gonna be the next day, and it's not gonna be able to happen.
Yeah.
And so all this is going through my head in a matter of seconds. And this goat, I mean, like I'm foreshadowing, I'm going into the future here, but this goat, when we got up to it, its elbow was completely broken. Like there was no elbow joint ever. So this goat was doing this all on 3 legs. And I mean, it's going fast up and away. And I rack another shell and I'm like, all right, please. Like I got 4 bullets. I got 3 in the chamber, or 3 in the like clip, 1 in the chamber. Yeah. I got 4 shots. My second one, I miss high. I readjust. I'm like, all right. Then my last landmark was at 300 yards because that's what my gun went to. I didn't mark anything else. And I'm on my second to last shot.
So, we obviously had some audio issues, but what other stories you got for us, man? If you have any more, I know you got a sheet printed out for us.
Yeah, I got 2 or 3 more that it's really Alaska general, specific. I mean, I was able to go on a seal hunt. I didn't touch a trigger, nothing like that. It's an Alaska native thing. But I had a boat. And there's a couple older native guys who would like to go hunt seals and whatnot, but they just don't have the means to anymore. The younger generation didn't want to take them out, or they had already went out seal hunting. Because I know a couple of my friends like Ivan Hotch and those guys, they harvested seals for the elders, but some elders wanted to go out and do it themselves, so I was able to go take them out. And it's not that exciting because, as you could think, seals don't get hunted a lot, so they don't know they're being hunted. They're like, oh, this guy's going to come
under the water.
Yeah,
so.
They're like, this guy's going to come take my picture. But what was really cool about that whole process was then being involved in the cleaning it and like harvesting the oil, the hide. And I did dance. I did dance in a tribe, like a Tlingit dancing style and whatnot. And they were able to make me some regalia and stuff like that. And I learned a lot about that culture and everything through that process. And it was just, it's amazing that back then, if they wanted to eat, they had to hunt. And it was just feeling that whole thing. And that inspired me to go a straight year with just eating wild game.
No way. That's awesome, man.
I went a whole year eating wild game, and that consisted of my first deer I ever killed by myself. I was hunting Sullivan Island. It's a small island, maybe 2-3 miles long, 3/4 mile wide. The tale of how deer got there was in World War II. They needed something for the soldiers stationed in Haines to do. And they brought over a boatload of deer and dumped them on this island and was like, there you go. I haven't found any factual research on how they ended up there or if that's true or not, but I know they did that with local like lakes and stuff, and they stocked them with trout to just give these World War II soldiers something to do. But I was able to go on.
I wonder if they regret that at this point. Often when we do that kind of stuff, messing with nature, years later we're like, man, that was dumb. You know, like axis deer in Hawaii is a good example because I've done that recently. You know, Molokai is completely overwhelmed and it's destroying the coral reef because like, the runoff is there. And so like I'm wondering if there's similar issues with what they did there with bringing in all those non-natives.
No, because the Sitka black-tailed deer were native. They just didn't have them in the inlet. So they're like, this is a great spot to dump them. It's an island. There's no way there's ones that are going to be able to swim over to mainland where they're not naturally are. There's been a couple sightings of them seeing them on mainland, but it's not like they're going to blow up because on that island, there's no wolves, there's no bears, there's no predators on them. They can kind of just stay there. But as soon as they jump over to mainland, they got brown bears, you got wolves, you got all these other kind of predators that will take them out. I mean, lynx. The lynx I got here in my room, I trapped on my trap line, and that thing would be big enough to take down at least a 1-year-old fawn. Yeah, so they die pretty quickly. But that was a great hunt. That was like my first ever. Like shoot it, clean it, pack it out all by myself, no contact. I had no cell service. And that's what I ate mostly that year. I mean, I shot some ducks. I started duck hunting along that time. And I realized very quickly that I needed a dog. Me and my buddy Jackson, we hunted, but we were hunting some geese. And we went up to go jump shoot some. And we were walking towards these geese. And I was like, they're going to be right over here. They get up, they fly, don't even get a shot at them. And then like these 3 single birds just split off and turn around and go right back towards us. So I was like, all right, sweet, we will actually get some. And I was really looking forward to it because Thanksgiving was coming up, and I needed something to eat instead of a turkey because we don't got turkeys up there. And I was still trying to go on a year of wild game only. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. I'm going to shoot it, and it's going to be my Thanksgiving dinner. And Jackson shoot ones. It dumps off, hits right in front of us. The one I shoot sails off into the middle of this lake. And I was like, man, I'm already completely filled into my waders. I've heard this time and time again is don't swim in your waders. And I was like, my waders are already filled. I feel comfortable like swimming in these right now. I'm fine. So I start swimming in them towards this goose, and I get there about I get like over halfway, so I'm committed, and I kind of like stopped to take a break, and I went to go roll over on my back, and my waders filled up more with water, and I was like, oh crap, like they're not all the way filled like I thought they were. They're kind of acting as a life jacket right now because there's a pocket of air in there, and I'm still able to swim. So I was like, I'm fine. I'm already over there. I'm just going to grab my bird and go. And I get to my bird, and I stop to grab it to kind of like throw it on my on my belly at this point because now I'm backpedaling on my back because I have some air in my hip waders or chest waders, and I stop to grab that bird, and my waders completely fill up, and I'm like, fuck, and I mean. I just start sinking quickly. So I'm like, all right, you know what to do in this situation. It's something that they tell you all the time. Get your waders off. So we're in a late season hunt. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, so it's cold out there. I was like, all right. So I'm layered up underneath my waders as well. So I pitch off my straps over the top. I unbuckle my buckle on my wader, and I go to pull them down, and it gets my first layer of like, I had these like synthetic sweatpants that I always wore because they're a nice insulating layer, and it gets hooked on that. So I'm pulling down my waders and those sweatpants. So now I'm trying to get the sweatpants off around my ankles and my waders off around my ankles. Doing so, I pulled my long johns down completely off. So now I'm like, gosh, damn it, and I'm just trying to fight, and my jacket is so heavy it's weighing me down too, and at this point I've been underwater for maybe 10-15 seconds, felt like forever, and I was just like, man, I need to just stop trying to stay above the water and just sink and really just fight to get off all these layers so I can have a chance to get back to the surface. So I just stopped trying to kick up, and I focus on just dipping off gear. And I'm thinking, my buddy Jackson's on shore. What's going through his mind? Like, we've already almost died on a goat hunt previous this year. Like, we've stalked black bears. Like,
he's wearing the same boots as he did.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just trying to think. I'm like, I hope he doesn't try to swim out here and save me. And I've always told Jackson, I was like, right before I die, that's when I want you to save me. I was like, give me a fighting shot first. Like, this is my sparring partner in wrestling and everything. And I finally get everything off, and I'm like 25, 30 yards out, and we're hunting marsh, so it's tall grass, so you already can hardly see into that lake. And I peel off, and I get on my back, and I can't see Jackson on the shore when I'm laying on my back, and I finally get everything off, and I'm just out of breath. I'm sucking in air, trying to catch my breath, and I was like, all right, it's closer to this shore than it is to go back the way I came. So I was just starting to do a backstroke, kind of breathing for a couple seconds. I can't see Jackson. I'm trying to yell. I'm out of breath, and I'm just probably thinking he's going back to the truck to get the sat phone and call it in. So I was like, I need to beat him to the truck or beat him to going there first. So I'm backpedaling, backstroking. I get to where I think my feet will touch because I see the grass, and I was like, my feet should touch here. And I stand up. Nope. So now I'm in cattails and like these and they're sharp blades of grass. So I'm backpedaling, just going back and back.
Ugh,
and
dude.
I'm just getting just all sorts of kind of messed up. And I finally get to dry land, and I can start like getting a trot, and I'm like, I need to stay warm. So I'm just going to start just kind of like just nose to the grindstone, just kind of get there. I'm just like back burners. Like, I know what I need to do to stay warm. I'm barefoot at this point. I'm in SpongeBob and Patrick compression shorts that I wear wrestling, and a button-up T-shirt.
Compression underpants. You're in
yeah, I'm in underwear. Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm in a button-up long sleeve camouflage T-shirt that I liked as a base layer because if I get too hot, there's like vents in it, and it's just perfect. And I'm just trotting towards where I saw him last, kind of hoping he's there. And I see that where I set my gun down is gone. So I know Jackson was just there. He grabbed my gun and kept going. And what I thought was funny is I don't see the goose that he shot by my gun where it just was. So he grabbed my gun, his goose, and his gun, and started walking back towards the truck.
Yeah, well, he doesn't want to go to waste,
like
right?
a good hunting partner should do. And I'm running now, and I assume Jackson's running, but he's in waders. I'm barefoot and cold and motivated.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm running faster than him. My feet are getting cut up, and I'm just trying to get to him finally. And I finally see him at a tree line. I'm trying to yell, but I'm out of breath. And he finally just whips around and sees me and starts walking towards me. And we finally get up to him, and I was like, thanks for grabbing the bird. And he was like, Wesley, I thought you were dead. I was calling back to like get your body. I was like, I saw something come up and float. Like, I thought you were dead,
waders.
dude. I was like, yeah, those were probably my waders. I got them off. And like,
God.
I see he was all puffy faced red, and I was like, let me see that bird. Let me get a picture. So there's a picture of me late fall in my SpongeBob and Patrick underwear, wet t-shirt, wet hair. I'm out of breath, holding it out, going, looking at this goose. And that all said, the next week I found myself a hunting dog, and just so happened to be the mutt I already had at home. I finally put in the real work I needed to on him and got him trained up. He was a Greyhound Husky Chocolate Lab. His dad was a 3-time show dog, purebred Chocolate Lab, and his mom was a mutt bred for the Iditarod.
Okay.
Yep. So we got him
An
my
Alaskan
sister.
Husky. That's what they call those,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Yep. So we got him, and he was a stud of a dog. He went on every hunt with me. Sea duck hunting. I mean, it was like -10, and I mean, like, he'd be pissed off if you put his coat on. Like, he was like, this slows me down. Like, I want to go. So I trained him up pretty well, and saved my life a couple times. I went and jump shooting some birds on some small ponds later that winter that were kind of like half frozen. I was like, I don't need them. I got my knee waders because all the lakes are down now, and I mean, it's frozen. Only like quick moving water into those streams and lakes were kind of open still for some ducks. And sure enough, I took a spill and ended up in those same underwear. I have another picture of me with a little golden eye, butt naked, except for those freaking underwear. And I haven't worn those underwear again on another hunting trip.
I wouldn't. Man.
I
They
swear
don't sound like
they're
good luck.
cursed.
God.
Yeah.
You got a good attitude about all this, I'll tell you that. Cause...
Yeah, I kind of like, I was kind of thinking of like what was going through my head when I was under that water for like the 15, 20, 30 seconds that I thought I was under there for. And all it was like, I really, really want this Thanksgiving goose. And I was just like, and then when I got up to the surface, that's when the thought of like, my buddy thinks I'm dead probably. I don't see him. He can't hear me. Yeah. That was the afterthought. So long story short, my mom told me I wasn't allowed. After I waited a year to tell her that story. She asked a couple times where my $200 waders went.
Right.
Never told her until a year or two later, and
you're like,
she
I know
told
exactly
me,
where they are, Mom. Don't worry about it.
Yep. And what's funny is I had to inform Fish and Game that I had a pair of floating waders in a lake, so they didn't think someone died.
Yeah.
Like they do aerial like flyovers for like observations and stuff, and it's happened in the past where they saw a pair of waders floating and they made a search party, and so I was just like, I had to tell them, but waited to tell my mom that, but yeah.
Dude, that's a crazy story.
Yep.
And
now that I'm here in Kansas, it's a world of difference. I came down on
Kansas. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I had my junior year, I won a state championship in wrestling at 215. My senior year, I was told that I would not get any kind of attention in attention. This is my COVID year. That I wouldn't get any kind of attention in college unless I bumped up to heavyweight. So I bumped up to heavyweight, 240. I won a state title in heavyweight in Alaska, and I got a couple phone calls. It was either between that, Oregon. I had a school in California, and I had a school in Kansas. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do. So the school in Kansas was Goodland. It was just a community college. I had a D3 offer in like Oregon or something. And I was like, I want to get away from the wet, cold, just that kind of stuff. So I was like, you know what? And then I looked on Kansas Fish and Regs, and I saw if you were a full-time student that you got resident license and tags.
There you go.
Yep. So I was a full-time student.
There. I love it.
So I went down there, and that leads me into the last two stories I'll tell you. They're quick.
How far is Goodland from Larned?
It's an hour and a half, I think, 2 hours. I'm not in Goodland anymore. Now I'm in Hayes, which is 2 hours from Goodland.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And Hayes is real close to Larned, though, isn't it?
Larned.
It's a small town. That's where my mom grew up.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it is. It's just south of here, I believe.
Yeah, I remember like on the big days when we were down in Kansas visiting family, we'd go up to Larned. What's funny is, so my grandpa hunted in Kansas, but he passed, when I was 7 or something like that.
Is
so
that
I never
that Doll sheep you got, that grandpa? Or?
No, that's
that was
my
your
father-in-law. That's my father-in-law.
Yep.
Yeah. So my grandpa, he's the one that like had all these cool guns and World War II guns and all that stuff that ended up getting sold away.
Sold, yep.
But yeah, he was the only hunter in my family, but he passed before I was really old enough to care. So I went out and shot some guns with him before, but I've never actually hunted Kansas, so it's pretty high on my bucket list. And I have a friend Braden Ford. It's like episode 3, I think. He has a bunch of land out there in Kansas, so I'm gonna try and get out there next year.
Awesome, yeah. Well, this is Kansas. It's great hunting, awesome, but it's a world of different. Like all my camo I had, nothing. No, I mean just nothing worked here for me. Except for my first ever hunt. It was school got out around 2:30 was my last class that day, and I went over to my buddy's house, and me being this cocky 18-year-old, I was like, deer hunting here ain't nothing. You just got to find the corn and some water, and you can shoot a deer. And I was like, I could do it by the end of the night. Like, I could have a dead deer hanging up by the end of the night. And my friends were like, bullshit. And I was like, take me to Walmart. We're going to go buy a bow. Went to Walmart, bought a bow.
Have you ever archery hunted before?
Never archery hunted a day in my life. Never.
Oh, okay.
So I went and bought a bow from Walmart, bought my licensing tag. You can get an over-counter tag for either sex, either species, archery only. Bought that tag, went to my buddy's backyard. The farthest we could shoot was 25 yards. I was like, that's all I need. I don't plan on getting any further away from him. Set a pin in. I had a grouping probably about the size of a 8-inch dinner plate. I was like, take me out. Let's go. I didn't have a truck. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. But my buddy was like, he just wanted me to eat crow so bad. So I didn't have any camo. I literally had nothing. And I was like, take me out. Let's go. And he drives me out, and I was like, I went on Onyx hunt, and I was like, crap, I'm about to eat crow so hard, but at least I'll get I had, and I'm like, just keep driving on this road. I think this is where I want to go. And I was like, all right, here's some walk-in hunting land. There's some corn on it. Here's like a little cattle pond, and here's a couple junipers on a fence row. I was like, I'll just go sit right here. I'm bound to see something. And about 30-40 minutes before dark, a group of these mule deer does come walking in, and I was like, and I mean, like, they don't even see me. I don't know. I'm in a Carhartt shirt, like that, like orangish, like yellow color, same color as Perry grass, and I was either in blue jeans or like the similar color kind of like as the grass, like work jeans, and my cowboy boots. And I'm just kind of tucked up in this juniper and this tall grass, and these does walk in. I'm like, am I about to waste my first ever mule deer tag on a doe? And I was like, I'm not eating crow. And I let that arrow fly, and I double lunged it, and it went maybe 25 yards and piled up and died. Yup. I know. I called my buddy, and I called him, I was like, with 15 minutes to spare, now come pick me up. And he was like, bullshit. And I was like, you come pick me up. And he got up, and I had dragged this doe, and he's like, you shot Bambi. And it was like a 1.5-year-old white-tailed deer. And I was like, I told you I'd have a deer dead by now, though. And I did. And then I went about 2 years, 2.5 years, because I didn't get one until late two next seasons, another mule deer. But I shot another white-tailed deer. That was the same one. I was going home for Christmas, and it was my last chance to hunt, and I had a final exam later that night. And now we're in late-season rifle tag hunting. And I finally, Goodland is far and few between for white-tailed does. But I finally found just a small little patch of them, and I took a shot at 400 yards, shot it, gutted it, and at that time I had a truck, and I was able to put it in the back of my truck, and it was in the back of my truck while I took my final exam for English. I guess it was midterm. So the deer was in the back of my truck, dead. I went in, took my English exam. Right, it's a midterm. But went back to my buddy's shop, gutted it all. I mean, not gutted it, finished processing it all out, and I brought it home for my dad on a cooler. Brought some of it home just to kind of trade with him, so I was able to bring back a cooler full of salmon, bear meat, and everything back from Christmas. And I thought it was a good trade. He said it kind of tasted like sagebrush. He said he was eating it, and he's like, it tastes like sagebrush. And I was like, well, the bear I got tastes like pork. It's really good, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, now
I'm happy for you, but I'm also a little pissed that you did do it so easily.
Yep.
I've struggled hunting my entire life, and it's never been easy.
Now I'm in that boat. Like last year, I wasn't even able to harvest a a white-tailed doe. I hunted every single day after work. I put in the time. Yeah. I had a doe come in during archery season at about 7 yards, and there was just this one thick bush in front of me. Didn't get a shot on that one. And then I bought a beagle pup, and I put a lot of work into that guy too for hunting rabbits and whatnot. So this next year will be kind of like the make or break for that for him.
Awesome, man.
But yeah,
rabbit hunting is fun. I've done it a couple times. I've actually been elk hunting, and I just have a small game tag because they make you buy it in Colorado.
Yep.
And it seems like every year in November these storms blow in, and I'm like, you can't see 40 feet.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to kill an elk. So I always make sure I have a shotgun or a 22 in the truck. Yeah. And then we just start walking, and these snowshoe hares, you kick a log, and all of a sudden this white blur shoots out, and you just follow its tracks. It's fun, and they're delicious.
They are. Yep. I love rabbit. And I kind of got my dog Clyde. He's a beagle, nose to the ground. And the first time where I knew it was going to work out for him is we were just hunting some rabbits, and just kind of, it was pheasant season, quail season. I kind of got him trained like kind of like a flushing dog. And if it's a rabbit, he'll chase it. If it's a pheasant that wants to run, he'll chase it till it gets up in the air, which isn't real ideal for pheasant hunting, but great for rabbit hunting.
Yeah.
But it's late November, and he starts getting all fired up, starts barking. And I'm getting excited because this is the first time that I'm like seeing some real positive things. And then out of this thicket, this hen pheasant flies up, and he's just like, you can't even see him. He's in that thicket. And then all of a sudden I see his head poke up, looking at the bird flying away. And then he just turns back at me and was like, I did my job. And I was like, all right, yep, he's a keeper. I'm gonna keep this one around for a while.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Nope. It's awesome having a great hunting dog. I highly recommend if people out there always had interest in it, just start watching some videos, start reading books, just because it's such a rewarding feeling knowing that you train this dog to help you with this task, and it makes it more enjoyable. And my dog Tank, he went on most of my goat hunts and everything. I had a pack for him. He would pack up my hunting my hunting knives and that kind of stuff, and he kind of just sit with me. Pretty hard to control wind and everything with a dog, but they're great. They're great hunting companions when you can train up a good one.
I believe it, man. I believe it. I just got a dog. It's not a hunting dog. It's a family dog. But my next dog, if I do get another one. Yeah. Mine's actually an Alaskan Malamute. So he's 5 months
beautiful
old.
Beautiful dogs.
He's about 55 pounds. He's gonna be a hoss, but he's pretty great, and the kids love him, and that's what's important for the first pup. Got to win over the family before I can then get a hunting dog.
Yep, I won over my girlfriend. We got a border collie lab mix from the pound, and then about a year later, when I felt like she was buttered up enough, I showed her a couple cute pictures of cute beagle puppies and got her hooked.
Awesome, man. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, this has been fun. Do you have any more for us, or is that it? I think that's according to what you were telling me, the end of the list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything else.
Yeah, this was good though, especially, man, for how young you are. You have some awesome stories. So keep it up, Wes, and more importantly, stay alive, please, because I'm worried about you.
You know
you
what?
got more close calls than I do, and I'm twice your age.
Let me make sure this door's closed. But don't want my girlfriend hearing this.
Uh-oh.
She's kind of tamed me down, but we're going on a little family trip here and going up to see my family and then popping the big question. So she's helping me mellow it out a little bit.
Well, that's what you say, but
yep.
We'll see. Well, congratulations, man.
Yeah,
congratulations.
There's no cliffs to fall off here in Kansas. That's probably why.
That's a good point. Did you meet? Is she a Kansas girl?
Yep, Kansas gal. Yep.
Okay, well, they're legit. My mom's a Kansas gal, so I can vouch for them. So.
Yep.
All right, brother. Well, thank you, man. I don't know. Do you have any social medias you want to share with the folks, or what do you want to do?
I have an Instagram. See some hunting pictures, see some fishing pictures, family pictures. So if people want to see what I'm up to, or I think that bear picture might even be on there. I know there's a couple moose pictures on there, deer pictures, trapline pictures. Didn't tell that story, but ran into a wolf on my trapline. Smart old wolf. Heard his pack going away. And so I started giving a couple wolf howls. He got all excited, started coming my way, came in about 125 yards, saw me, realized that he got, just put his head down, turned broadside. But they can see some trapping pictures up there. And so if they want to check that out, they're more than welcome to. I can get you that after here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you don't know what it is, that's fine. I'll make sure that there's a link to it in the show notes. So guys, check Wes out and give him a follow if you want. But man, thank you. First off for reaching out, and secondly for sharing some pretty amazing stories. So I really do appreciate it, brother. Yeah,
of course. I definitely want to hear more stories from just average Joes like me. So reach out to them, guys.
I don't know if you're average, buddy.
Well, it's the whole like you interviewed one of the Ketchikan basketball coaches a while back. I actually met him, and that's just I've met him before. I don't think he'd remember me, but I traveled there for sports all the time, so I met him once. But it's just that's the average for Alaska.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say you're an above average hunter, but I'm gonna say, Wes, your intelligence is maybe a little lower. The guys that are near death frequently. I'm worried about you fellas. So
you know what?
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding.
Yep. You gotta have 9 lives like a cat. I'm on 12, but
oh goodness. All right,
working on borrowed time.
Man. Perfect. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you. And like Wes said, guys, if you got some good stories, don't be afraid to reach out and let's hear them. So thank you, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. Again, I apologize for the technical issues. Won't happen again, I hope. But I want to thank Wesley, of course, for coming on the podcast. I haven't spoken to him since he went off to Alaska. Let's hope and cross our fingers that she said yes. I'm sure she will. But yeah, Wesley, thank you for coming on the podcast and putting up with all my technical issues. To you listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. If you got all the way to the end, which you must have because you're hearing this right now, you heard Wes say it. If you've got some stories, reach out to me. I'd love to hear them. And that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Do appreciate you. Make sure you give us a rating or review or a follow or whatever you need to do. And get out there and make some stories of your own. Thank you.